Coming up on this episode of The Social Hour, Prince Harry's jewels are all over the net. Plus, Google Circles are getting smarter, and the SuperPacApp for the political truth. Figure it out. All that and tweet it, maybe, on The Social Hour next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for The Social Hour is brought to you by Cashfly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is The Social Hour with Sarah Lane and Amber MacArthur, episode 74, recorded Friday, August 24th, 2012. This episode of The Social Hour is brought to you by Audible. To download a free audiobook of your choice, go to audiblepodcast.com/social hour. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of The Social Hour in Petaluma, California. I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm Amber MacArthur in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, in a beautiful sunny day before the weekend. Sarah, what's it like there?
It's about the same. I haven't been outside since very early this morning because it's what we do at TWiT. We just stay indoors where it's safe. But no, it's nice up here. It's been kind of foggy, kind of a little weird for the end of August around these parts, but usually September and October are really nice, not just in San Francisco, but the surrounding areas. We even get a little bit of leaves changing. I know that East Coast sides of our continent don't believe that, but it really does happen. So I kind of look forward to the next phase of our year.
Yeah, I remember when I lived in the Bay Area, that was always such a nice time of the year. September, October, it was almost summer-like because the summer didn't really feel like summer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's true. We get they call it the Indian summer, and it's just the summer's later than everybody else.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes. It's fine. We have so many stories. As we always do, at the end of the week, the social stories just start piling up. So we'll try to get through as many as we can. We've got some tips. We've got some spotlights. We, of course, have Amber's Rad or Fad. But we should start off, Amber, with a pretty big story this week that got a lot of people talking for both sides, really. And that is Twitter revoking Tumblr's friend-finding feature, meaning that they are making changes to their API, which they have warned was coming down the pipe, pardon the expression, for some time. But it seems like they are now working to make it a little bit harder for direct competitors, you might even say rivals, other big media companies, to use their open graph without any benefit to Twitter.
Yeah, and I think one of the most interesting things about this is Tumblr's reaction. They really aren't mincing words here. Within the TechCrunch article, their note from a Tumblr spokesperson says, "To our dismay, Twitter has restricted our users' ability to find Twitter friends on Tumblr. Given our history of embracing their platform, this is especially upsetting." So it looks like it was a bit of a surprise to them. But we've been covering this story now, Sarah, for a few weeks, and it seems that Twitter is really trying to get more control over its API and have tighter restrictions. And it's affecting a lot of the big services, some of the big guys out there that people are used to using on a regular basis and used to relying on that integration with Twitter.
Yeah, I think that you might say something like, well, okay, what can you not do on Tumblr now? If I'm already a Tumblr user, I'm already following a bunch of people, I've kind of got my whole Tumblr experience set up. It won't really affect me. This is more for if I wanted to start a new account on Tumblr and I think, okay, well, who else is using this service? What now? One of the nice things that up until 2 days ago you could do is see who of your Twitter friends were also using Tumblr. This is a service that Instagram also had that Twitter has yanked at the time. That happened to Instagram at the end of last month, and so some of us thought, well, it's probably because Instagram was bought by Facebook. Twitter and Facebook are kind of competitors, so maybe just Twitter doesn't really want to work that nicely with Facebook properties. But clearly that's not the only thing that's going on here. Tumblr's also a really big service. People people use Tumblr for all sorts of reasons, but many people will send their tweets into Tumblr, and you could, I guess, conceivably get a lot of the Twitter experience on Tumblr, just depending on how people are using it. But then again, you can also send your Tumblr post to Twitter with a link back to Tumblr. So in many ways, Tumblr is adding to the entire Twitter experience. So it does seem odd that certain services are getting singled out, and they just happen to, at least thus far, because LinkedIn is also on this list, be big services that Twitter doesn't really get a whole lot of. They don't have a partnership. There's not some sort of a revenue share in place between the companies. The real issue is, well, who's next? Is Flipboard going to get shut down because they really rely on Twitter's ecosystem, at least the way it works now? Flipboard, of course, is an iOS app. Do they have an Android app as well? If they do, I've never used it.
I think they do.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but for some reason I think they do.
Yeah, I'm blanking for some reason, but many of you are familiar with Flipboard. Tweetbot, which is a third-party Twitter client that I use. I mean, what happens to these services that are tapping into Twitter's API when Twitter can change the API at will whenever they feel like it?
Yeah, I mean, my first reaction when I read the story, and like I said, we've been following it for a while, is just, in some ways, I just think of the open, free internet, as many of us, I think, thought of it, 5 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago. I feel like it's kind of crashing down. People are feeling pressure, like Twitter, to figure out ways to be able to monetize the service and not be quite as open as they once were. And in some ways, I think this is a sign of things to come. And like you said, as far as being on the chopping block for Twitter restricting their API, this is just it's gonna keep happening. And I think there'll be a few more different services added to the mix. So kind of unfortunate, I think, for users, but in some ways, I suppose I understand Twitter's motivation. I think it's unfortunate because so many people had relied on the ability to link up with Twitter like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Through Tumblr.
Developers are kind of freaked out, and some are very angry. Some are just scared. What happens to the way that I do things, people's livelihoods and money-making abilities and really good ideas in many ways have been built on top of the Twitter ecosystem, and Twitter's changing. I think I read somewhere that Twitter used to be a utility and now it's a media company. It was something that was put into words more eloquently than what I just did. And I thought, it really has changed a lot. At one point, Twitter they were adopting hashtag syntax because that's what the community made up. There's a lot of stuff that just kind of happened. And Twitter was a bit of a Wild West type of thing. And there's servers were, could never handle the load. And a lot has changed in the last 4 years.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Sarah, for our next story, I know you recently talked about your visit to Vegas. However, I do not think it was quite as wild as Prince Harry's visit recently that caused a buzz all around the world. I love the headline you put in here. Prince Harry's jewels hit the internet. Does it change privacy laws in UK for publishers? Such a big story since this went down. I think it started on TMZ.com, pictures of Prince Harry with no clothes on, with what looked like a naked woman behind him. There have been other photos that have surfaced. And of course, these photos made it all the way from someone's phone to the front page of newspapers in the UK and beyond.
Yeah, that's Amber, I was so close. I was so close to the strip poker party.
Close.
I was at
That's
the
not
Win.
you, is it, Sarah?
He was at the Encore. We were like strangers in the night, sliding doors, But no. So if you're not familiar with the story, yes, Prince Harry had a wild weekend. Strip poker, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't wild. Maybe it was a very boring game. But there was nudity involved, and somebody did take a couple pictures. What's interesting about this story, I think, is, Amber, you're right. Of course, TMZ, this surfaces on the U.S. tabloids. Now, for some time, there is a rule in effect in the UK not to publish scandalous material that interferes with privacy rights. So Tom Merritt and I were looking this up earlier, and it's like it doesn't just apply to the royal family. It applies to public figures in general. So conceivably, you'd say, well, this would cover Prince Harry, obviously a public figure. It wouldn't be appropriate. In the Washington Post, it's funny, the Washington Post actually has an article with a picture of the Sun, which is a British rag, which is, again, nothing except a lot of skin being shown here with a very clever punny-like headline. But the whole idea behind the Sun is, hey, we're not actually doing anything wrong because since the pictures were already out everywhere, everybody's seen these pictures on the internet. They could certainly find them quickly enough. There is no, the privacy is already out in the open. You know, it's kind of like the New York Times republishing WikiLeaks sensitive data coming from the U.S. government. It's a little bit of that same argument. Like, they were already out. Now we're just reporting the facts as we know them. We're not actually publishing anything, you know, that's sensitive that we really have any control over anymore. And, you know, I'm sure that the Sun is thrilled and probably sold a lot of copies of this particular issue. But yeah, they do have a point. I don't know if it's it's kind of an ethical question, I suppose. But it's true that, I mean, I didn't see this for the first time on the Sun. I didn't.
Oh yeah, it's all over the place.
Yeah,
and I mean, I think it's kind of entertaining how they're very clear about why they publish the photo right in the headline on the front page when they say "pic of naked Harry you've already seen on the internet." So they're pretty upfront about that part of it. And yeah, I mean, I guess it's one of those things where they feel as though they don't need to adhere to the laws because of the fact that it's already been online and like you said, his privacy has already been jeopardized. And I think this is just an obvious sign of that this is just a sign of things to come. If things come out on the internet like this, it's almost become fair game for people in print to be able to post it and or publish it. So not a big surprise here, and very humiliating, obviously, for the royal family.
Yeah, although I wonder how Prince Harry feels. He's like, whatever. I'm just playing some strip poker. I'm fit. I'm young. It was fine. Nothing's really all that. Well, anyway, I'll just stop. Let's move on. I'm going down a rat hole that I should not go down. Okay, let's move on to Facebook revamping Facebook messages to look more like email. Now, we can talk about this, and thank goodness Mashable has some screenshots of it because it has not actually rolled out for me yet. And I was hoping it would by the time we went live, but I still have the regular old Facebook messages, which is kind of if you look through your messages, it's a single pane of a bunch of messages. You click into a message, and then you can see the thread and the history of the message. The new way, and Alex, I don't know if you've got that at the ready where you can pull up, is it looks a little bit more like traditional email, actually. You've got your the variety of messages that are collecting over in the left-hand pane, and then when you click over one of them, you see the message history over on the right hand, and then you can write your reply down at the bottom of the thread. It's not a huge change, but it certainly makes messages look nicer. I like the organization aspect of it.
Yeah, I think this is much better organized. I know we've been beating up on Facebook a little bit over the past few weeks for some of the changes that they've done to certain things on the site, but I think this is a move in the right direction because messages have always frustrated me in Facebook. And I don't know if you find this, Sarah, but more and more people, at least in my network, even business colleagues of mine, sometimes they'll message me on Facebook instead of actually emailing me. And so I find I have to check my Facebook messages a lot more than I used to have to. And I think the design of what they're doing is, it just makes sense. I mean, it's the standard way that we think about messages coming in to be able to sift through them in this new design. So a big plus, I think, for this small tweak to the Facebook messaging experience.
I agree. I use Facebook messaging quite a bit. There are some people I only talk to over Facebook because I don't actually have their email addresses. It wouldn't be hard for me to get it, but it's just sort of our preferred way of communicating. Not only sort of like childhood friends, but people that I've met along the way who are Facebook friends, but they're really more acquaintances that Facebook somehow seems just... You know what they also have down pretty well, and I know that Mark Zuckerberg likes this and kind of wants people to go in this direction, is the bloat of email. You know, email is still a little bit of that, hello, sir or madam, here's my first paragraph, regards, Sarah, you know, that kind of thing. And Facebook, just by nature of the way it has evolved, even though it looks more and more like, almost like an Outlook email window, you're still a little bit of like, get to the point, grammar is appreciated, but whatever. If you're in a hurry, I kind of get it. You get a pass. And I feel like, for better or for worse, that's sort of the way that I choose to to communicate with a lot of people because we're all busy.
Yeah, no, I think, it's good to see them do something like this. And as frustrated as I get sometimes, because sometimes I just want people to email me because it's sometimes hard to keep track of getting messages all over the place, I think this will make it that much easier. So a big plus for them. Now, Sarah, speaking of another social network, we had a great chat last week about Google Plus, and is Google Plus a ghost town? We got lots of feedback. I had asked to post the same question on my Google Plus page, and a lot of people defending the Google Plus experience. I know we're going to talk about Google Plus circles and how they've changed them slightly in terms of how you can control the amount of noise you're hearing from different circles. But also, probably should just mention about the vanity URL that Google has rolled out to certain people on Google Plus, because I know there's a lot of angry people about that, or people angry about that they haven't been able to claim their URL because Google rolled it out to just specific people.
Well, I got mine, and was it yesterday or the day before? I think it was yesterday. And there was no action on my part. I think I'm just lucky, or somebody who works on the team thinks, maybe, I don't know. I have no idea. And I got it in the form of an email. Google pretty much said, well, was it an email or did it pop up on Google Plus? I think it was an email.
I got an email.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. So that's right. And it was a little bit of okay, we figure you want to just be plus Sarah Lane. If you don't, let us know. Now's your time to pick something else. And I said, nah, that's what I want. And it took about, 3 clicks and we were good to go. But yeah, I'm not sure, Amber, why, some people it is rolling out for and others not. It might be early adopters. It might be people who have over a certain amount of, who are in enough circles that Google just, algorithmically highlights a lot of folks and figures that we, use the service enough that we should have something like this or spread the word. I'm not really sure. But yeah, these sorts of things do tend to tick people off, especially if you're, you and I both have admitted we use Google Plus, nothing personal, but it's not necessarily our go-to network of choice. If I have to have just one network, it's not going to be Google Plus over Twitter, for example. But I think maybe I'd feel a little slighted if I felt like Google Plus was my number one network and I wanted to make sure that some other Sarah Lane didn't get my name.
Yeah, especially if you, like you said, if you use it a lot. And I know that was the feedback from some people who had left comments on my Google Plus page, is that they use it all the time on a daily basis, and they still aren't able to claim their own personalized domain. And I think it's probably not a big surprise coming from Google. If you think back to the earlier days of Google and the way that they rolled out Gmail accounts and what a prized possession that was in certain times.
Yeah.
Google has always taken this approach, as have many other social networks. So hopefully they roll that out for everybody eventually, to give them the option to be able to claim their own specific name on Google Plus. Also, this new feature looks cool to Google Plus circles in terms of cutting out noise in your stream and being able to control the content coming from your different circles.
Yeah, this is it's a slider, actually. So if you think about your Facebook news feed, it works similar. If you've ever said, well, this person, I don't want to unfriend them, but I really don't, they post too much. I don't want all of their stuff to show up in my news feed. I'll just say, that I'll dial down the updates that I get from them. You can say, like, I only want to see life events, such as, when a person gets engaged or something, just once in a while, or if they have a kid or whatever. Or you want to see everything. Like my mom on Facebook, I have it set to anytime she does anything, I get a notification because it's my mom and, I want to know what she's up to. Google Plus wants to work in the same way. And the slider is their way of saying pretty much, if a slider's all the way to the right, that's a person you don't want to miss anything from. Now, maybe you're like, I don't know if I need to see everything from them, so maybe I'll, go to the, notch number 4. So it's most updates, and of course, so on and so on. All the way to the left is very little. I guess not at all would be, they're out of your circles entirely. And much like Facebook, although of course Google Plus doesn't want us to think about Facebook when we're describing these new features, but it's the same kind of thing. Did you get engaged? Did you get a new job? Stuff that's like, it's a once in a while but important milestone that I would choose to hear about, even if I don't really need to know about the day-to-day of this person. And then the third new feature is changing the circles themselves. Google says, we still want to enjoy, talking about somebody who overposts, right? If you still want to enjoy that person's post in your stream, but you don't want a notification every time they share with you, you can just click mute from notifications or from their profile. So a lot more of that personal, make it what you want to make it so that you don't feel like Google Plus is, it's sort of the opposite of the ghost town problem. It's like your Google Plus might just be too noisy. And I think we all have that person who's like, wow, they updated 5 times in the last hour. And even if they're all really interesting, this person's kind of dominating my thoughts, and you now have control over that.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing is, I don't know about you, Sarah, but I think I would forget to unmute that person. So they may annoy you for a certain amount of time and you may want to mute them, but then it's the, 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the road and you think, oh, I haven't heard anything from them in a while, and perhaps you forget to unmute them. But nonetheless, I suppose that's a risk that you take. And like you, I'm sure there's lots of people that you have in your own networks that you want to kind of get them to pipe down for a little bit.
Yeah, I have some... like I said, I use TweetBot on my iPhone, on my iPad, and on my Mac. I'm very TweetBot friendly these days, and TweetBot has some great filters. They also have a mute filter where you can say, I don't know, somebody's going crazy on vacation or something like that, and I'm totally guilty of this too, so hopefully people are muting me when I get annoying. But I just, I want to mute them for a week or 2 weeks, but you also have the option to mute forever. And mute forever is like unfollowing somebody, but without actually having to unfollow them. But you do have to eventually go back and unmute them if you actually want to hear from them ever again. And I have some people that I've muted forever in, these small windows of me feeling exasperated. And now it's like, oh, gosh, I should really go through some of that stuff because I don't really want to mute them forever. And now I have to think about it.
I know. A lot involved in the process of managing your social network, Sarah. You need an assistant to help out with that.
Seriously.
Sarah, this looks like a cool update as far as Chrome for iOS getting updated, adding some social sharing features. I haven't had a chance to try it out, but I think this is an awesome idea that you're able to now potentially share web pages with people on social networks, from Twitter to Google Plus, and also Facebook.
Yeah, so this is Chrome for iOS. Leo and I showed it off yesterday on iPad Today. If you haven't seen this week's episode, and it's simple stuff. But if I'm looking at a page, if I'm looking at the social hours page, so twit.tv/TSH on iOS, so iPad or iPhone. When I go to the share area, which is a drop-down menu in the upper right, it now gives me the option to share to either via email, Facebook, Twitter, or Google+, which makes perfect sense. And you think, okay, well, what's so special about that? But Safari, which of course is the default browser, mobile browser in iOS, doesn't even have those options. Certainly doesn't have an option to share to Google+, and I don't think it ever will. So it's sort of like Chrome becoming that much more of a good utility as far as browsing goes on the device that certainly doesn't want me to be using Chrome as the default browser. Because, of course, it's Apple, and Apple and Google aren't the best of friends these days. But, good on them. I'm glad that Chrome is better. I really like the Chrome browser on iOS, actually. And the more features it adds that Safari doesn't have equivalent features for, the more I think, all right, all I have to do is figure out how to use Chrome as my default, which is not actually an option right now, at least the way the iOS is set up now, and I'm good to go. Also don't think that Apple will ever allow that, but girl can dream.
A girl can dream. Yes, I agree with you. Okay, Sarah, for this next story about Bing and Quora, I have to say that I'm not a heavy user of either of these services. I do depend on Quora. That's the Q&A site. Once in a while when I'm doing research, I find it can be really helpful if you're searching for a certain topic and you're trying to find answers about something specific or stats or whatever it might be. Not so much a Bing user either, but I think this is neat that Bing now surfaces Quora answers in its social sidebar. So an interesting use for, I think, all of the great content that has been developed on Quora. And I know a lot of people have dedicated time to make sure that there are a lot of great answers to the many questions that are there. So I think this is a pretty good fit.
Yeah, I do too. I swear, if Bing puts anything else into its social sidebar, I mean, we've now talked about this. I can't not talk about what Bing adds to its social sidebar because they're really getting creative. Quora answers can be extremely helpful, especially for not just specific questions, but answers about trends and topics and kind of esoteric stuff. But it is sort of ask a question, and then you can get a variety of answers from people who know what they're talking about. And a lot of technology stories, tech reporters, tech writers will take information from Quora because the people working at the companies where you might be speculating otherwise are actually answering truthfully on Quora half the time. So Quora is really a great resource. So I see why Bing says these are results that should be not only available to you, but showing up somewhere that works really well. I love that. Go Bing. I still don't use Bing all that much either, Amber. So in a way, it's kind of like, I feel like it's our duty to talk about it because there are a lot of Bing users out there, and I know that there are people watching or listening who are like, oh, that's awesome. That's going to help me today when I use Bing. I kind of look at the sidebar and I go, oh, that's really cool. When Bing is my default browser, when Apple kicks Google off of iOS for good. Baby.
I'm totally with you on that. I think I only used Bing. I've only used it probably 3 or 4 times. So not a heavy user of Bing at all. So I just wanted to mention, I love reading messages that come in while we're doing the show because it just makes it so much more interactive. And since it's all about social, it's always fun. Just a quick comment from Refugee on Twitter who says, Facebook messages are much better than texting because it goes over the net versus a text that you could be charged for. Just another reason that Facebook messages can be a good thing. So I thought I'd throw that into the mix of our conversation. Just so Rusty knows we're listening.
Yes, Rusty. Totally agree with you. That's actually part of the reason I like Facebook messages so much is before Facebook messages was what it is now, they had acquired a company called Beluga, which we talked about, I think, back in the day.
Yep. And, we sure did.
Yeah, it was basically a way to have the texting experience without using the SMS protocol, because it's really just messages over the internet. And Facebook bought Beluga. Facebook messages pretty much just became the next iteration of what Beluga was with Facebook branding. And I use iMessages with other iPhone users. It's not actually something that I have to think about, but Apple can switch us off of the SMS protocol when. If I've got an iPhone and Amber has an iPhone, then we're just using messages. But otherwise, I sometimes will choose to use Facebook just because, I don't know, I know that I could text the person. I've got their phone number. It's fine. But I know that they'll be on Facebook also. And so, yeah, it's a personal preference. I don't have a problem with going over my texting allotment per month. I just don't text that much. But then again, maybe if I did, this would be more of a problem. So I think I'm doing all the right things so that texting isn't an issue for me going over.
Well, I think it's, particularly true of teenagers. We've talked about reports on the show before where teenagers send an average of like 3,500 text messages a month. So I'm sure maybe we're not in that demo that sends that many text messages. But if you did, then having something like Facebook messages can be a really good thing if you have Wi-Fi nearby. So that is a very good point that was just brought up on Twitter. Sarah, so you found this article, The New Rise of a Summer Hit, Tweet It Maybe. And I have a story about this song, but I thought I'd let you start first.
Okay. Yeah, so the New York Times wrote about the phenomenon that is Call Me Maybe by Carly Rae Jepsen. Now, I'm not going to sing it right now, so you don't have to cover your ears. I wouldn't do that to you. Although I did sing it last night loudly at a party. But the idea behind this article is how songs like this end up, rising to the top. Not necessarily because, it is a catchy song, right? You either like it or you don't, or you say, I don't want to hear it, or that sort of thing. But it's a very big deal. The video has been watched millions and millions of times on Ms. Jepsen's own YouTube page. But there have also been a lot of covers. Katy Perry did a cover. Justin Bieber had written back in, I think it was when was it? It was December. So it was right before 2012 started. December 30th, 2011, he tweeted out that Call Me Maybe was possibly the catchiest song I've ever heard, lol. And after that, she was actually signed to a U.S. label. She wasn't before that. So the story is sort of like, it used to be that right before the summer started, the record labels, they've got all these artists on their roster and making music, and they're trying to figure out, like, what's going to be that #1 hit. And there is kind of that summer feeling. People love that, that 1 or 2 summer songs. It just reminds you of, 1994, that kind of thing. And what are those songs? You've got to have a song that's got that hook and that people sing along to and want to share with each other. But that's kind of been turned on its head now, because you've got these songs that they just gain viral notoriety on YouTube, word of mouth, something like Justin Bieber has a lot of followers on Twitter, but a lot of people start hearing about the song not because they heard it on the radio. In fact, just the opposite. Nobody heard it on the radio. And this is not the only song. The Gautier song that is very hard to get out of your head once you hear it, Somebody That I Used to Know, is another really good example of that. This is an artist who has been making music for quite a while, but a lot of people hadn't heard of him. He's Australian and well known in some circles, but that was the first song that a lot of people got exposure to because it had a crazy video. A lot of people shared it online. So it's kind of like that sort of cyclical music thing that happens around summertime music is different now.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. My story about this is just recently, I obviously didn't know that you were going to bring up this story, but I did a course on a site called Pluralsight, and there are a bunch of authors that do their own courses. I did a social media course. Most of the courses that they do are much more technical, and it's a really cool company based in Utah. And about a week ago, I got an email from one of the women who works there, and she said she wanted all of us to do lip sync Call Me Maybe. Now, you can think the authors are spread all over the place, all over the world. And she did a script where we each did our own lines and lip synced them. And the video just came out yesterday. So a bunch of us, I think there's probably like 25 people in the video. So this has a personal story for me about Call Me Maybe. So yes, you can't get it out of your head. And also more and more people having a lot of fun and doing little tributes to the songs through their own lip syncing. So it's a fun one.
The song was something that I heard people complaining about on Twitter before I ever heard the song. That's just absolutely true. I was like, I don't know. I mean, how bad could it be? Okay, I'll just hear it eventually. And then I did, and I was like, oh, so this is a horrible song that I never want to hear again. And then so I spent, maybe the next few weeks really fighting it and just being really annoyed about the whole thing. Oh, God, I hate it when these songs get too much attention. And then I kind of went through the acceptance period where I was like, it's not the worst song in the world. And actually, I kind of like it. And now would dance at any given moment if the song started. And I like the enthusiasm of people saying, like, yeah, this is a silly song. I mean, the singer herself has said, this is a fun song. It's not supposed to be anything that, it's not supposed to be something that it isn't. It's just a fun little song. Yeah. So I like that lip syncing and the covers and the positive nature of it all.
Oh, yeah. It's funny because when I saw the video that we all did and when it actually came out yesterday, my first reaction was like, wow, this is why the internet is great for fun things like this that can bring people together and just allow them to be free and goofy and silly all at the same time and create this easy little video that didn't take a ton of time. So, I was not a huge fan of the song like you, Sarah, but I have to say when I was doing my own little lip syncing part, I listened to it over and over again and I couldn't stop singing it all day. I think I drove Chris crazy. It just sticks in your head. It's one of those songs that you can't get away from. So it's good that you've just resigned to the fact that you may as well celebrate it.
Exactly. Okay, we've got social tips, we've got spotlights, we've got some feedback from some of you. Got a lot left on the show, but we do want to give you a quick reminder that we do record the social hour on Fridays, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. So please do join us live. If you're watching us after the fact, that's fine too. Somebody had wrote us in, Amber, and said, I want to make sure that you describe accurately how to subscribe to the show because I know that the TWiT advertising model depends on subscription numbers. And that's not exactly true. Even though we do count numbers, and that's the sort of thing that, keeps these shows afloat. As long as the show's doing well, because we know that you're either watching or listening, we keep doing the show. You don't have to subscribe. You can simply, you can watch us live. We pay attention to live numbers. You can download the show. That's actually, sort of the best way because you're obviously going through the trouble of downloading it. You watch us on YouTube. But the subscription option is the best if you want to think about it the least. On each of our episode pages at twit.tv/TSH, Alex, if you click into episode 73, for example, you might be watching this, and we've got the video right in the page, so you can just watch it on the page if that's what you'd like to do. But if you want to subscribe, over on the left-hand side, you've got download options. There you go. You can, of course, embed it and share it in a variety of places, or you could subscribe to either the audio version of our show or the video version. Now, I would like to think that you subscribe to the video version because how could you miss our smiling faces? But in all honesty, we really don't care. As long as you like the show, we want to give you as many options as possible. You've got larger video options, smaller video, which is good, if you're watching us on, a mobile phone or that sort of thing. And that just keeps you from having to think about, is there a new episode out? Because once you subscribe, you'll just get that episode into the, the podcatcher of your choice, whether you choose to use iTunes or a variety of other podcasting tools of your choice. So that's kind of how subscribing works. If anyone's ever unclear about that, hopefully that clears things up too. And it doesn't cost anything. It's just a way. Subscription always sounds like you're on the hook to pay something, and it's just a way to be getting something kind of like delivered, newspaper delivered to your door type of thing, but for free. Speaking of free, the reason that the show gets to be free is because we have wonderful sponsors who help support the show, like Audible. We want to thank Audible for sponsoring this episode of The Social Hour this week. I am a huge Audible user, and I've spoken Audible's praises in the past many times because I am a self-proclaimed lazy person. My eyes don't work when I'm tired at night, and when I try to read, I start to nod off, or I kind of am not paying attention, and I don't know, I feel busy and I'm scattered and I'm in a million places, and it's hard for me to sit down and read a novel, but I want to be the kind of person who reads books regularly. They're enriching, they're entertaining, they take you to another world. That's why Audible's great, because you're busy. I've got 2 ears. I can listen to somebody read me a book, even if I don't have time to actually sit down and read it myself, while you're commuting, while you're exercising, while you're making dinner, while you're folding laundry. I mean, there are all sorts of times where you can listen to something, even if you can't actually sit down or lay down and read that book. I actually am part of a book club. This is a new thing. Some neighbors of mine and I mean, we're friends, but we're also neighbors, so it's easy to walk to each other's houses. We all decided to get together and start a book club. Now, the problem with that is everything I've just described. It's like, when am I ever going to read that book? And the thing is that it'll never happen. And that's why book clubs frequently fail, by the way, is because we all say, this is a great idea, our intentions are there, but we don't read the books, and then you stop getting together because nobody has anything to talk about. With Audible, what I do is I get through the book while I'm in my car, and you can actually read a book in a lot shorter period of time than you thought it would take, and it's great. So I get to be part of the book club, I get to be part of the cool group, and I've even suggested that to a few other members who are saying, how am I going to get through 1,000 pages by Monday? Here's what's really cool. If you go to audiblepodcast.com/social hour, if you sign up to Audible, try it free for 30 days. Just see if Audible's the kind of thing that's going to work with your schedule. If you sign up, you get a free audiobook. Well, actually, you get a free audiobook even before signing up. Audible says, listen, try it out for 30 days. We'll give you a month to get through a book. See if you like it. And if so, then, you have a subscription, and then you become Leo Laporte, who's read every single book in the entire universe because he's had an Audible account for many, many years. Honestly, his Audible history is breathtaking. Again, that's audiblepodcast.com/social hour. Get a free book, and then tell us what book you're reading or you're listening to. Reading, hybrid. And we thank them for sponsoring us.
I don't know how he does it. He's a busy guy.
That's the thing is, my excuse is, I commute a lot, so Audible actually works really well for me. Leo lives 2 minutes away on foot. I don't know when he has time to do any of the things that he does.
I've said this to you before, Sarah, but having worked with him over the years, I would mention services that I thought, no, there's no way he's heard of this or signed up for it. And like 90% of the time, he already had an account. I don't think he sleeps. That's the key. That's the ticket.
I don't either.
All right. So we talked a little bit about Facebook messaging at the top of the show. Another thing that is obviously very popular is chatting on Facebook. I try not to do a lot of Facebook chatting. I don't know if it's just me, but I find that there's nothing more annoying than working on something and then a little chat window pops up and people are trying to talk to you when you're in the middle of something. It's not that I don't like talking to people. It's that the timing never seems to be right. Unfortunately, on Facebook, they have a feature that allows the person on the other side, if they've sent you a message, to find out if you've read that message. I also hate things like that. The good news is there's a free extension, and this is our social tip of the week. The free extension is called Chat Undetected, and what this does is it prevents other people from knowing when you've seen their Facebook message. It's a really simple thing to install, works with Chrome, Firefox, and Internet Explorer, and just a great idea if you're really busy and if you're like me, you find Facebook chat can get annoying, and you don't want to offend anyone by possibly not responding right away. So Chat Undetected, it's free, it's easy, simple extension.
Yeah, and it's not just for Chrome users. Sometimes we feature extensions that we go, this is so great. And then the Firefox people go, yeah, for Chrome people, there's no help to us. So yeah, this is at least covering many more of you with Firefox and Chrome and IE. I'm with you. This is actually one of those features that has worked both ways for me. There have been certain conversations I've been having on Facebook chat where, for whatever reason, it was important for me to know that the person had seen it. It was probably like a coordinating, like, so we'll be there at 7, or like, see you there. Or I don't even remember the context of it, but it was like, okay, so-and-so read that, good, we're good. I can check that off my to-do type of a thing. I've also been in a situation where, the chat window pops up, and I kind of like, I look over, I don't really want to get involved in a conversation right now, and now the person knows that I'm there. And it's just, it's kind of like I am. I have the same thing because I use the I am client Adium, and you can see a little pencil, when someone's writing. So there's a little bit of like they're there, they're typing, and you're sort of waiting, although you don't actually know if anyone's just looked at what you wrote back. But that can feel invasive, and I think that it's nice to give people the option. It's not obviously something that Facebook wants you to be able to strip out, but for now, you do have a nice little extension. Chat Undetected, that's good.
Love it. All right. So for our spotlight of the week, I don't know if you had a chance to see this. I saw it on a few different blogs over the past couple of days. It's called the SuperPacApp. And the idea behind the app, I think it's very clever, actually. It was created by some people out of MIT. The idea being that it uses audio software so that you can hold the app up to a presidential ad that you're watching on TV or on YouTube. And then you can find out who and how much money is behind that particular ad. Also a cool thing within this application is that they actually rate the ad. So they give them a rating of love, fair, fishy, and fail. And they back it up with a bunch of different facts as well. And they pull information from different sources online. I think the reason that I like this is, aside from it providing some really valuable information about the people behind certain ads and the money spent on certain ads, I also just think it's such a cool integration of a bunch of different technologies online and open information that's accessible to anyone, even if people don't know instantly where to get it. And just the idea that it's an app that listens and then analyzes and spits out even ratings. So this is kind of fun leading up to the election.
I agree. I love the stuff because in the U.S., this is an election year. We're getting down to the wire, and a lot of these ads are running more and more frequently. And this is kind of the point. Well, I mean, it's been a dirty race for a while now, but it's like we're really getting to the point where things are spun in ways to make the other candidate look as horrible as possible. And a lot of Super PAC ads do the best job of this. To the point where, you hear about, well, there was this commercial and Obama, endorsed it, and it was about how this woman died of cancer because of Mitt Romney, and, Obama's going, that wasn't made by my campaign. This is not even something that I endorsed at all. But it's really hard unless you're working in politics or you're just extremely on the money with this stuff, to wade through what's actual fact and what's just not, or in the best interest of somebody. And I love the idea of this, especially the whole listening feature, because you watch something and you're like, I don't know, I'll look that up later or something like that, and then you don't. But if you can hold it up Shazam style, and your phone or your mobile device, we looked at a iPhone version of this app. I'm not sure if they've got Android versions. I hope so, because we've got a lot of Android users in the U.S. But hold it up, and then you get a little bit of information right on the fly while you're still thinking about it. Makes perfect sense to me. Be informed.
Yeah, no, I think it makes a lot of sense, I think, for people to just be able to get more information and have more insight into advertisements that are put out there like this. So that's really fun for our Spotlight of the Week. Now, Sarah, we do have some feedback. We have an email and we have a video. And the email is about a terrible tragedy this morning in New York. You probably saw this on your Twitter feed. Someone had opened fire at the Empire State Building, and quite a few people injured, and I believe the gunman and one other person dead. That's the last update that I saw online.
Yeah, this was, I heard about it as I was listening to the news this morning in my car. Definitely a terrible tragedy, and it sounds like a lot of the events are still kind of unfolding because it was pretty chaotic. One piece of the story which is interesting is somebody on Instagram with the username Mr. Mookie had posted an extremely graphic photo of the scene, and he had a pretty flippant caption, just sort of like, hey, it's a real shot. This person got popped. Isn't that crazy? Something like that. I'm paraphrasing. I'm not trying to throw this person under the bus, really, but the point is sort of like wow, here I was just walking by, and this is a crazy thing to see on Fifth Avenue. And it turns out that not too long afterwards, in his Instagram feed, not only was it getting shared a lot because half of it was, oh my gosh, look at this picture, and half of it was, this person does not have the right attitude about all of this. This is not like hey, look what I saw, this is a really horrible thing. But he or she, I'm not actually sure if it's a man or a woman, started getting contacted by actual journalistic publications who wanted to use that photo. And are willing to pay for the photo. We've got Steve McKinley from Reuters here. Can I use this picture? Call me. I'm a photo editor at the Globe and Mail in Canada, looking for permission to use this image. Contact me. The phone number's right in the Instagram thread. The Guardian, a UK-based news agency, Associated Press. The list goes on. So it's interesting that so many of the news orgs got wind of this, and then you see them all doing the same thing. We know that that's frequently how news works. People are piggybacking off of each other's information, but kind of a crazy day for somebody who has got an Instagram account, and I don't want to say was in the right place at the right time because it's almost the opposite of that, but ended up financially benefiting from a really terrible scenario.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of journalists, I think they struggle with how to deal with something like this in our digital times, in the sense that obviously they're looking for content to try to build out the story and explain what happened, and trying to be sensitive to the situation. And they just unfortunately come across, I think, in some ways, negatively, because they seem almost like piranhas kind of jumping on something like this during a very devastating time. And they're just so quick to the punch to be able to, they're trying desperately to get permission to use images like this. And I don't know. I mean, I don't think there was a right and wrong really to this story, in the sense that it seems obvious that journalists are trying to collect information. I think, the headline that, or the title that this particular person put on the image was a little insensitive, Mr. Mookie. And that seems to be getting a bit of a reaction online. But I mean, we're going to see so much more of this. It's a whole concept of the citizen journalist, people on the streets and seeing what happens. And my biggest beef with stuff like this, and I see this all the time with journalists, especially in television news, is if there's a tragedy where they're on air and they're asking people to send photos, even if the tragedy is still happening and there are still situations, and they don't remind people to stay safe and take care of other people first before they snap photos. That's always been a big irritation of mine.
Yeah, we have healthy debate going on in our chat room of getting into the gun debate. Someone says I sounded like a gun owner just now when I was describing that story. Nothing could be further from the truth, Picoso. But I think that if you take what exactly happened here, try to at least put that aside, because the incident itself is horrific. Should not have happened, and the whole thing is. But it could have been. I mean, this would happen with all sorts of types of news stories, right? It is that whole citizen journalist, whether they mean to be there or not, ends up being a big part of the story, especially, yes, when actual organizations, it's not like they were on the scene. People are scrambling to try to figure out what happened. We need some visuals. What's going on here? Random person on random social network, well, not that random anymore, but social network, has something that we can use. Now we got to work together, and we hope that person's cooperative. So... Anyway, figured that we couldn't get through the show without talking about that, since it did happen this morning. But we did, if we want to move on to something a lot happier, a lot more lighthearted, got a video from the folks at Vsnap who have a little thank you for us.
Hey, Sarah and Amber, what's happening? This is Joe Nigro. I'm the business evangelist at Vsnap. I just wanted to thank you very much for giving us that plug on your show. We'd love to learn more about how we can be helpful to you, maybe even incorporating Vsnap into that show again, somehow, some way. So really, today I just wanted to thank you guys. Every single Friday here at Vsnap, we have this campaign that we run called Thank You, It's Friday, where we just thank people via Vsnap, and we direct this through Twitter. And we just feel like it's a really personal way and to really engage with somebody, and on top of it, like, who doesn't like to be thanked, right? So just thanking you very much for putting Vsnap on your radar, and we'd love to follow up with you guys soon. So have an awesome weekend, and thanks again.
Well, aren't you sweet?
That's so sweet.
I love being thanked. He's absolutely right.
That's adorable. I want to be thanked every Friday by that guy.
Me too, and do it through Vsnap. No, but we talked about Vsnap in the past because somebody had sent us a video message via Vsnap and said, this is actually a pretty cool service, especially if you're asking for video submissions or questions or feedback or whatever from your audience, which of course we always are. And I like it a lot, and I'm glad that we're on Vsnap's radar as well. The feeling is mutual. A lot of thanks. Thanks all around.
Very cool. So really easy way for people to send feedback, and it's always nice to get video feedback as well for the show. Now, Sarah, I had last week, I think it's time for our meme of the week. Let me just look. Oh, it is. So last week I had kind of hinted a little bit at our meme of the week, and now we get a chance to actually talk about it. The meme is NASA Mohawk guy. So turns out that this particular person at NASA, he is the Mars mission controller. His name is, I hope I don't butcher this, Bobak Ferdowsi, if that's how you spell it. And he has been working at NASA for a while, and he at one point only had about 200 followers. It's grown, I just checked this morning, to over 50,000. He's now known as the NASA Mohawk guy because he does have a mohawk, kind of a cool-looking hairdo. He's a bit of an internet sensation after people saw him while they were watching the Mars Curiosity landing on NASA TV. He became a trending topic on Tumblr, a hashtag on Twitter. There are image macros, fan art, T-shirts, a bunch of other stuff featuring this particular guy. So he's turned into a meme quite quickly. Obviously, he's very handsome and looks very charismatic, and I'm sure that's one of the reasons he's made it into a meme, and people are having a lot of fun with it. So overnight fame for this particular guy.
I love how the mohawk is kind of, every time you think the mohawk is just faded out, then somebody will just bring mohawk back into cool baller status again.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of mohawks, Alex didn't even know where I was going with this, but he predicted correctly. Somebody named Derek wrote in to us and said, next week's meme, this is after he watched last week's show where we teased this meme. He said, I got him thinking about possibly a new TWiT logo. Obviously, that is the Mohawk version of our TWiT logo, which I wholeheartedly support. I think that we should adopt it across the network. Our graphics, our web people need to get on that. And we should have a little Mohawk bug.
Forward that to Colin and I, please.
What's that?
Forward that to Colin and I.
I will. I will do that right now.
And Sarah, we've been put in, as soon as we talk about memes, it seems that we've been turned into memes by some of our listeners and our viewers as well. If you remember that gymnast, I can't remember her name, who was always unhappy.
Michaela Maroney is not impressed. That's right.
So we had a little photo fun with one of our viewers with that particular meme as well. So who knows what's going to happen next week with the Mohawks with us. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we might have them. It's hard to say. You just don't know, do you?
Yeah.
Until next week, Amber and I might just have Mohawks. Why not? I mean, like I said, they're very hip. And it's just hair.
Yeah. I'm in, Sarah. You go first.
Yeah, there was somebody at, I went to this party last night. It wasn't really that much a party. It was like a dinner thing. But she had like a half mohawk. It's this thing I'm seeing now where sometimes women will, they'll shave off the side.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, I can't imagine doing that because I would just be too afraid it wouldn't look good. But it kind of looked good. And it didn't look like, whoa, crazy punk or anything. It was just cool.
Look cool.
Yeah.
I'm not cool enough for that.
I'm not either.
No.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, maybe one day. Yeah. All right, so I think it's almost time for our Rad or Fad.
Yeah, we are getting to the end of our show. Just about an hour into it. So quickly, just want to remind everybody how you can get a hold of us and thank everybody who did write in, called in, videoed in, tweeted in, Facebooked in. Actually, I didn't actually see anybody talk about us on Facebook, at least not anything that got into the show, but I will next week. We want to hear from you, is the point. The social hour at twit.tv is our email address. Our voicemail number is 2626-SOCIAL. That's our Google Voice voicemail box, so you can just leave us a voicemail. Don't worry, we won't pick up. 2626-SOCIAL, or again, record a video. Use Vsnap. Give it a try. I'm pretty impressed with their product. But you can record a video pretty much anywhere, and then just email us the link for where we can find it and play it. All right, Amber, are you ready for Rad or Fad? Because I am.
I am, Sarah. And, we've had quite a few rad segments over the past couple of weeks, and not sure if this one makes it into the rad category, but we'll see. So basically, found this on shinyshiny.tv. Have to always thank them because for some reason I just find lots of cool stuff there for Rad or Fad. This is new workout clothing that vibrates when you mess up moves. So if you're doing yoga, the clothing has little sensors in it that would vibrate to notify that you have done something wrong. If you've done something right, then you'll also be notified, but not necessarily with the vibrate. It's all sounding very weird as I explain it. The designers call this new range of clothing Move, and it looks as though there would be technology like an app that would go along with it to analyze how you've been moving and give you a sense of where you've had problems, what you could do better, tracks your performance. I don't know. I mean, I think, I don't know. I feel like it's a bit of a fad. I don't know if I need to get that specific. Like it's good enough if I actually get the point of exercising. I don't know if I need, a vibrating response all the time if I'm doing a particular move wrong. What do you think, Sarah?
I agree with you. I actually love this stuff because I like motivation. I like a reason, particularly when it comes to exercise, because I can find all sorts of excuses not to exercise when I go home today before I hit the happy hour. But so I had a Fuel Band for a while. This kind of reminds me of, it's that kind of wearable computing thing. And I actually really liked it. I wore it every day. I was religious about it. I was happy when I met my fuel goal. I felt bad when I didn't. And then one day it bricked, meaning it just stopped working. I couldn't get it to work no matter what I did. I tweeted to Nike Plus a couple times, and I didn't really get anywhere with them. And I just kind of was like, you know what? I'm free. I don't really care anymore. It doesn't matter. If I work out, then I work out, and I don't really need some sort of a bracelet to tell me how many calories I burned. I also feel like it's a little bit of that, like, especially if it's buzzing to annoy you, it's a little bit of like those, I don't know, those little programs that you can run on your computer where you say, every half an hour, remind me to stand up and stretch. And you think that is a great idea, but it's so annoying and you never actually do it and you end up turning it off. And those sorts of services, for some of you may work. I think for most people just aren't effective, even though they're meant to be effective.
I can think back to my very first, I'm going to tell an embarrassing tech story here, but my very first BlackBerry. And I remember I thought, oh, it's so cool that I can turn it on vibrate, because anytime I get a message, then, it'll vibrate, I'll be aware of the message. And literally within 24 hours, I had to turn the vibrating off because it was too absolutely annoying. And I just think, like you said, for something like exercise, which should be a positive experience, you should have a lot of good feedback, and you shouldn't be worried about all the negativity of possibly something vibrating because you're doing it wrong. And then what if something breaks and it's just not working? I mean, you're focusing at that point so much on the technology and not necessarily on the benefits of moving and trying to get in shape, that it seems like a huge distraction. Unless you're, some super athlete, I think there's a time and a place for technology when you're exercising, and I don't think within your clothing is necessarily the right fit. So I say this is a bit of a fad, and not a huge fan of it.
Right, unless you're maybe learning a dance routine. I mean, maybe in your jazzercise class, there's some complicated moves, and it really matters how you execute them. I mean, I can see certain instances where this would be neat. But again, but where are you going to buy these clothes? Are they even going to fit right? And then you get clothing is tough. I do agree with you that it feels like a fad. It feels like
faddish,
very interesting idea, something that people are trying to figure out how to get us to wear computers. And we're just not quite there yet. Everything still feels a little strange.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit strange. I'm not sure that it would motivate me necessarily to do a better job. I'd be frustrated, and then I'd rip off my clothes, and that could be awkward.
Right, especially in jazzercise, where people go, "Wow, look at her. That just happened."
I could pull a Prince Harry, basically.
Exactly. Well, Amber, now that we're back to the subject of nudity, I think we should probably wrap up the show while we're still G-rated. That is it for this episode of The Social Hour. Thanks to everybody who watched and listened to us live, and for everybody listening or watching on demand. Thank you to you, too. Remember, please do subscribe if you enjoy the show and you want to watch or listen each week. It's the easiest way to do it, and thanks in advance for that. We do record live on Fridays, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. And our website, if you need to catch up or find show notes or links to articles that we talked about or anything that's discussed in any of our episodes, is at twit.tv/TSH. All right, Amber, we'll be back here, same time, same place, next week. Until then, have a great weekend and great week, everybody. I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm Amber MacArthur, and we'll see you soon.